So, welcome to the podcast, Liz. I am so excited to have you here and to talk about all the juiciness in unperfectionism.
Thank you so much, Jen. I'm excited to be here.
So, my favorite question to ask is in this moment in time in your life, what is that thing that's currently lighting you up the most?
Ooh, what is lighting me up the most? Gosh, it's got to be right now the work that I'm doing with my clients inside of my group coaching program, the Badass Business Boot Camp. It's like I'm working with women who are growing their business, and I actually just got off a group call with them right before we're recording just now. And there are just so many big things happening for them. They're doing events, they're getting clients, they're getting interviews. It's just they're doing things that scare them, which is exactly what it's all about. I was just reminding them that entrepreneurship is the fastest path to personal growth, I believe, because you always have to be doing things that scare you and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of these women I've been working with, for some of them for a year or more, and it's just amazing and beautiful to see their growth. So that is totally lighting me up.
Yeah, entrepreneurship. I don't even know where to start with that. Like, if somebody would have warned me before I got started, the deepness I would have to go with myself, not sure I would have. Well, okay, I would still have gone on the ride, but man, it's been a ride.
It is. And that's what it's all about. You're gonna fall down, you're gonna get back up, you're gonna build that resilience to make yourself into the person you're meant to become in order to do the thing that you're meant to do.
Yeah. And that takes some real messy, imperfect action. And I know you have a good story about how you became, I want to say like the queen of unperfectionism, but that's just doesn't even seem to fit it. But I'm just like, that is what you're helping people lean into, is like taking this imperfect way of doing business and life and all the things and allowing it to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I would say that I grew up and spent most of my life as a card carrying perfectionist. I was always the top student in school and spent all my college hours studying instead of being out having fun and just trying to do everything right, trying to get the best grades, and putting a lot of pressure on myself, having that really strong inner critic, beating myself up. And the thing is that those parts of ourselves, like the perfectionist part, the inner critic or the judge part, they're trying to protect us from failure. They're trying to help us succeed in their own way. But of course, it takes a toll. And for me, over time, it took a huge toll on my mental health, to the point where I reached a breaking point. And 37 years old, I had to leave my full-time job and wasn't able to work anymore because I was just, my perfectionism had just taken such a toll on my mental health. And I had to take a step back and take care of myself and recognize what was going on, and spent several years learning tools to work my way through all of that. And that's the period of time where I got my certification as a life coach, because I wanted to be able to share those tools with other people. And as I was working with clients around their perfectionism, around their mindset, I found most of my clients were other women in the entrepreneurial space. And we were working together. They were making great gains as far as the mindset piece. But they were still stuck as far as like, what do I actually do? Like, what actions do I need to take for my business? And I ended up pivoting and starting a group coaching program with some of my one-on-one clients, which I mentioned before, the Badass Business Boot Camp. And so that's what's really allowed me to grow into this space where I get to help women take these huge risks in their, not huge risks, but learn how to comfortably take risks in their life and business so that they can achieve those dreams and do those amazing things and serve all the people that they're meant to serve. Because yeah, for me in the early years of my business, when things started to go wrong, I wanted to give up. It was that same pattern, that same perfectionist pattern of, oh man, I put this thing on Facebook and nobody signed up for it. So that means I suck. And I'm just going to go curl up in a ball and not do this anymore. Like I definitely went through that after about 6 months in business. And I finally realized, oh, no, I have to actually try again. Maybe just what I did wasn't the right thing. And I kept learning and I kept trying. And it's really built that muscle, that resilience muscle of where you prove to yourself that it's okay to try, it's okay to fail, and you actually learn and grow so much more that way.
Oh yeah. Failure is the best teacher. Let me tell you. Like those
100%.
launches, those launches that you're like, oh, this is the best thing. It's coming from my heart. I know it's, and then you're like, I just put in all that effort. Oh man. Now what?
Now
Do I
what?
give up? Do I go work for somebody else or do I stay on this roller coaster? All right. I'm staying.
Yeah. Yeah. So then the question becomes, well, what can I learn from that? What can I do differently? What can I take away? What went well? What can be changed? And doing it again and finding a way that feels even more aligned. So we're just moving towards that place of having a life and business that's really in alignment for who we are and what we want.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things to mention is like what you're saying is it takes time sometimes. It doesn't just come out of the gate, perfectly, or it gets stuck behind the gate because we're trying to be too perfect. One of the two seems to happen. And every
Yes.
time you tweak something a little bit more, you learn something more about yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the huge thing that I see with so many newer entrepreneurs in their first couple of years is that holding back. Or for some people, of course, it prevents them from even launching their business in the first place because they're back there trying to get everything right, waiting until they feel like they're an expert in something. And the truth is, you don't figure it out. You can't figure it out in a vacuum. You can't get it right in a vacuum. You have to try something, put it out there, get feedback, see what happens, and iterate again. And yeah, and that's how that works. So it is such a huge roadblock. And that's why I feel like perfectionism is one of the hugest blocks, and mindset in general, of course, one of the hugest blocks for people. My clients tell me, they come into the program and they're like, yeah, I mean, the strategies are helpful, but I kind of already knew a lot of the strategies. I've kind of already heard a lot of this, but I was getting stuck with the overwhelm or the procrastination or the perfecting, the trying to get it all right. Like that's ultimately what holds us back. And so that's, yeah, the secret sauce with the work that I do as a combination of mindset coach and business strategist is uh, having that secret weapon to really tackle the mindset blocks that come up.
Yeah. I think like one of the mindset blocks that I'll see myself and many of the listeners is that we think we should be doing things a certain way. We should build this, beautiful website. It's all got to look perfect. It's all going to look pretty. And then I can launch. And I talked to someone the other day that she's like, yeah, I just send them a PayPal link. As long as you have a way to connect, a way to take the money and a way to, like maybe an email service. She's like, and I use Gmail. She's like, yeah, that's all I really needed once I got out of my own way.
It's so true. And especially in, earlier on in business, you don't need those complicated, techie, fancy, overwhelming funnels. It is about those one-on-one connections. And that's what I'm always telling my clients too. I was just reminding someone on the call today, like, hey, you have this course that you've already been teaching for another institution. It's your intellectual property. Like, you can launch this as part of your business. And, and then she's thinking, oh, well, I got to have the sales page. I got to have this. I got to have that. I'm like, no, you could just write a little bit about it in a Google Doc and go talk to people who are a great fit for it. Do a pilot or a beta launch and just get people in there, get the testimonials. And then, yeah, later on, when you have the time, you can build the fancy funnel, but don't try to start there.
No, because those fancy funnels and perfectionism, oh, that is a recipe for burnout, for
Mhm.
misery. And we did not go into entrepreneurship to work more than 10 hours for no money.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, and if your offer is not validated, that's the saddest thing, when somebody goes and spends months or years building a course or building a website or building a sales page before they even sell anything, and then they find out that the messaging is off, that they don't know who their ideal client is, they're not speaking to the right person, they're not they're not providing a solution that people want, and then it's crickets. They've spent all this time on this, on this thing. So
Yes, I will
yeah.
admit I am one of those people that has built, I think I have like 22 courses at this point that I've built out,
Oh
and I've only
my.
sold 3 of them. So, yeah, I'm like, but they're all perfect. They are very much the A+ student in me, done with perfection. I mean, video editing and all the things I didn't need to be doing. And it wasn't until somebody told me to like jump off the cliff and build the plane while you're flying it. And I'm like, okay, that sounds terrifying, but it
Uh-huh.
works and it's
Oh
so much
yeah.
fun. It's so
Oh,
messy.
totally. This same client that I was just talking about that has this program she's already developed and taught for another institution. It's like literally you just need to show up, do it live, teach it to whether it's one person or 20 people, teach a live round of it, and then put the recording in a course platform. And that's your evergreen course right there. Do it once. Don't worry. Don't fiddle with it. Don't edit it. Don't re-record it. Just get it out there.
Oh, I love that. So it's really about like letting go of the need to be perfect and those emotions and limiting beliefs that come up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, unperfectionism is about rejecting perfection as an ideal. And so I distinguish it from the word imperfect, because to me, imperfect implies that there's still that ideal of perfection, but I'm accepting, oh, okay, like I'm not there and it's okay. Like, but for me, unperfectionism is about no, perfectionism should not be our goal. Perfect should not be our goal. We are human beings. We are much better served by just taking unperfect action, learning and growing from it, and celebrating it, celebrating the action, celebrating that we're trying, celebrating that we're moving forward and making progress, rather than sitting back, stuck, scared, doing nothing, and not getting our message and getting our mission out into the world and serving people.
So some of the emotions you just mentioned stuck, but some of the emotions that come along if someone isn't sure, if they're like, oh, maybe I'm, just in build mode or should mode. Like when you're in this perfectionism mode, what are some of those like emotions, or I'm going to say like setback emotion kind of type things that are like festering at the forefront?
Oh, definitely the shoulds. And that's the inner critic or the inner judge. And and then yeah, I feel like there's, especially for people that have a really strong perfectionist part, there's that equally strong inner critical part. So that's what really comes out um when I think about the emotions, is it's like an emotion of shame, of no, almost no matter what I do, it's never good enough. No matter how hard you try, there's that part of you is always going to tell you, oh, you could have done more, or it's not good enough. And so it creates that sense of shame that just has you feeling like shit all the time. And that's where we don't want to be, right? That is not self-love. That is not self-care. And it's not where we're going to do our best work from. It is, those parts of us are effective. They can push us to do and accomplish a lot of things. Many people have reached a lot of success by being driven by their inner judge and by their inner perfectionist, but they're probably not very happy.
Yeah.
So it's in being able to celebrate our mistakes, celebrate our failures as growth and learning, where we can really cultivate that sense of self-love and just be happy with our lives.
Yeah. So for those of you that are cringing, like celebrate our failures. Are you serious? It's just
Mhm.
crazy. What can somebody do that's like stuck in that shame, inner prison? Like, okay, I just failed again. I'm done. I'm gonna go hide under my rock. Just leave me alone. You're being too happy. You're being too optimistic. Like, what is the first thing or like the little mini thing that you would tell somebody who is stuck there right now?
Well, I will say that my philosophy of celebrating our failures, it comes from a branch of psychology, I guess, and I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but from what I've read and studied, there's a branch called acceptance and commitment therapy, and also dialectical behavioral therapy, where there's a technique called opposite action, and it's a theory that literally, if we can act opposite to the emotion that we're feeling, even if we don't believe it right now, if we just take the opposite action, it will actually shift our emotions. So yeah, so even if you can't believe that the thing that just went wrong is a good thing, if you can get yourself to laugh about it, to celebrate it, to high five yourself, like, yes, I made another mistake. This is good. And hopefully shift to a place where you can maybe see, well, what is the gift in that? What can I learn from that? What can I take from that that's going to make things even better next time? So it's not at all about toxic positivity or anything like that. It's really about like just a healthy way to look at things, because staying stuck in the shame spiral is it's not gonna get you anywhere.
No, no. I tried that on for 4 years. It was not so much fun.
Yeah.
It's very expensive, actually.
I bet.
That, I mean, and that's why I love, everything that you're bringing, this unperfectionism, moving out of these places, and that, toxic positivity, I see a lot of it. There's a lot. But I think that your approach is basically approaching it with curiosity. Like, let's get
Yeah.
curious. Why did it fail? What can I learn? And curiosity is like one of my words for this year, because I'm approaching everything with curiosity. Like,
Mm.
that failed. Oh, well, I was in a bad mood when I launched it. Okay, well, it's not the offer. It was my energy. Everyone was like, I don't want her in my space. So it's really interesting that that was like how, like you're approaching getting out of these is like approach your life, your failures, and celebrate and get
Yes.
curious.
Yeah, that's beautifully articulated. Curiosity is definitely one of our more sage emotions, I guess, that we can bring to any situation. That goes for whether we're looking at ourselves and our lives, or certainly the people around us in the society that we live in. And as divisive as things can be, when we can bring that curiosity rather than judgment, and that's what it is. It's almost like the opposite of curiosity would be judgment of deciding that something's good or bad or right or wrong, and taking a hard line on that versus, oh, okay, yeah, well, what was that? What was it about that? And what could be different?
Yeah. And I think the curiosity can also help you start taking that action step that's really messy, that's not perfect, because you're like, ooh, what can happen from a messy step? It's
Yeah.
still one step forward. May have been
Yes.
so messy, you may have fallen down in the mud, but
Hmm.
slap the price tag on it, call it a mud run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I don't know if this will make any sense to your listeners, but I come from a previous life as an environmental educator and teacher, and I don't know if you've ever seen the graph of like global carbon dioxide increasing over the last century, but it's an up and down because it changes with seasonal cycles, and that's what I'm picturing for personal growth and business growth. It's like, going up, and then maybe there's that little dip, but then the next up is a little higher, and then the next dip is a little less low. And of course, this is a bad graph. We actually don't want this happening with climate change, but
No.
it's the visual I'm getting for whatever reason, my nerdy science background. But yeah. Go look it up. I think that's a good picture of what this growth is like.
Yes. And I think that it's another thing that you're doing with this, you're providing support to women to help them on this crazy roller coaster of these ups and downs and these turns that make you just want to throw up and be like, I'm done. This makes me sick. I'm over it. So I want to know more. What is the Badass Business Boot Camp? Because you mentioned it earlier. Like, what is it?
Oh, all
I
right.
want to know that. I want to know the juice.
The Badass Business Group Boot Camp is my super supportive 12-month group coaching program. So essentially, I created the program that I wished that I'd had when I was starting my business, because I went out there and I did all the free things, enrolled in all the webinars, started paying all the gurus for the expensive one-off things that had zero support, got overwhelmed, didn't know how to put it all together, and kind of got nowhere except for in a lot of debt. And what troubled me about those programs was there wasn't the feedback, there wasn't the support, the coaching along the way, or the mindset piece, or all of that. So I thought, all right, well, I'm going to put together a curriculum that gives people all of the foundations of what they need to get their business off the ground. And that's my Badass Business Blueprint. I actually have a free training that walks through step by step the entire blueprint, that people can see where they are or what they might be missing. And then it's about 12 months of implementing that and supporting folks along the way with weekly group coaching calls. At this time, it's open year round. So we have folks joining anytime, and it's for service-based female entrepreneurs. So usually folks in their first couple years of business, sometimes brave folks who are just launching, just starting out, and some folks who've been in business for a year or two, and they're maybe working really hard and doing all the things, but there's just something that needs to be tweaked. It's their messaging, it's their pricing's too low, their money mindset's in the way. And oftentimes those folks come in, and within a month, it's like they've doubled their revenue because there's just one little thing that needed to be shifted, and then they take off from there. So it's really fun, really exciting, and it's a lot of personalized coaching within the group and personalized feedback on everything that folks are working on. So all those worksheets that you get and fill out in other courses and then don't have any idea if you did it right, like I look at all that and I give people detailed feedback on it. So it's a really fun, it's a really wonderful community. And then of course there's the mastermind aspect of it, where everyone's together and supporting and uplifting one another.
Yeah, that community piece is huge. And having a mirror, so somebody to reflect back to you things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I could go back in time, there's not a lot of things that I would start over, but I think on day one I would get into some sort of a mastermind, day one of my business, if I could do it all over again, because I wasn't ready at that point for just one-on-one and the price tag of the one-on-one. But I think having the community and the one-on-one, kind of that hybrid, is just it's where magic happens. And I am so excited about your Badass Business Boot Camp, because there's so much magic is going to happen in there.
Oh, it does. It does. And I did one-on-one coaching for years before I launched this. And I think there's still a place for one-on-one, but there's something so powerful about the synergy of the community. And even though people on the call are getting a shorter amount of time of coaching than maybe a one-on-one coaching call, it's like they're getting the benefit of everybody else's coaching. So if somebody else comes in with a problem that you didn't even realize that you had, but you're like, oh my gosh, yes, like I'm going through that too. And so everybody benefits from everybody else's coaching. And also my clients are brilliant, smart women and have great insights for each other too. So that's really fun. It takes the pressure off. I don't have to have all the answers.
Yes. It is so powerful. Like I said, like if that was the one thing, because I started out with the high ticket coach one-on-one. And it's not that they didn't do well for me, but when I got into a mastermind setting where there were other people and other women helping me rise, I was like, yes, set me free.
Yeah. And it helps so much with the perfectionism thing, because they see each other taking these bold actions. And I had one of my long-term clients, she's been with me almost 2.5 years now. Today, like, she took over and was basically coaching one of our newer people because she's been through all this, and she's been through, all of these struggles even more recently than I have. And she was just beautifully able to cheerlead this other woman. So I just love that about it, and that they get to see they get to show each other what's possible.
Yeah, it is really powerful. And it's really powerful for those people that are trying to create masterminds too. Cause like you said, it does take off
Mhm.
some of that pressure
Yeah,
and
yeah,
provides more
absolutely.
value. It's like, cool, okay,
Yeah,
win-win.
yeah, no, absolutely. I love it.
So where can people find this boot camp and more about you?
Oh, all right. So my website is unperfectionism.com. And that's where you can go and download my free training on the Badass Business Blueprint, which is how to grow your business to a full-time income in 12 months or less. So that's the best starting point, is go grab that training and see where you are. And then if folks are interested in taking the next step and exploring being a part of the boot camp, there's just a short application process and a conversation with me that would happen. And it's currently open for enrollment most of the year. We do take a couple of breaks, so I would let people know about that. But yeah, absolutely. And then the other piece is, at the time of our recording, I haven't launched yet, but by the time we release this episode, my own podcast will be launched on perfectionism. And I'm doing that because I know not everyone is maybe ready to invest in coaching, or maybe needs a little bit of cheerleading before they're ready to do that. So my podcast is just going to be my stream of consciousness. I'm really kind of doing it for my clients. It's going to be all the little mindset and strategy nuggets that I just forget to share with them in the course or in the group. And I'm going to be like, okay, here, go listen to the podcast. But hey, why not make that available to everybody for, tips, tricks, mindset support. I'm hoping to get into some deeper aspects too of the perfectionism piece. And I'm a certified coach in several different modalities. So I want to share more deeply about parts work and some of those things. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'd love to have folks check it out.
Yeah. And we'll make sure to get all that information in the show notes, because again, this is something that I think I only talk to female entrepreneurs, so I don't know about the males out there, but I know that the female entrepreneurs that I have talked to struggle with, even if they don't think they're, perfectionists, it creeps up on you. It gets sneaky.
Yeah. Well, as women, we are socialized from a young age not to take risks, not to make mistakes. Right? What does a parent do typically when a boy falls down and scuffs his knee? Like, oh, get up, be a tough guy, right? What happens when a little girl falls down and gets hurt? Like, oh dear, like, you need to be more careful, of course, hopefully, most of your listeners are probably far more progressive parents than that at this point. But those of us who are currently adults have probably been socialized in that way. And we've been taught to be afraid. We've been taught not to take risks. We've been taught that we need to look a certain way, act a certain way in order to get other people's approval. And it's just a part of our culture that is so ingrained. And so a lot of us have parts of ourselves that have taken that to more of an extreme in adulthood in unhealthy ways.
Yeah, and entrepreneurship will shine a light on it. That's for sure.
That is for sure. And that is something really interesting. I think that my perfectionism really came out when I became an entrepreneur, because in other places, perfectionism is rewarded. In school, you do the assignment, you get the A, yay. Okay. You keep doing that. You keep getting that positive feedback. In a lot of work environments, it's like that too. But then when you become an entrepreneur, there is nobody giving you the gold star. And there's no way to get 100%. There's no way to get an A plus. Like you're gonna mess up. You're gonna get things wrong. And so for somebody who has been rewarded their whole life for doing everything right, it can be a real shock to the system. And that's where working through that shit and the personal growth comes in.
Yes. That's another thing I wish I would have started in the beginning. I was the, and if I got lower than an A, I'd ground myself kind of kid. Like my parents were like, way to go. And I'm like, it's a B. I'm grounded. And that does not work well in entrepreneurship. Let me tell you, it's been a lot to get me to, like, my whole podcasting program is called Perfectly Imperfect Podcasting, because it's all about being messy. And I'm like, now I'm like, I don't know if I like imperfect anymore.
Oh,
I'm like, I kind of like, I'm now like, my brain is thinking a whole nother way. And I actually appreciate that way of thinking. It's still going to be perfectly imperfect podcasting, but it just is another way to think about that word of like, we aren't striving to be perfect. We're striving to take that action.
Yeah.
To be in aligned action, to do the thing,
to be bold and to be badass. That's why I call my program the Badass Business Boot Camp, because I think there is nothing more badass than feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And that's what you have to do over and over and over to grow your business and to succeed and to get out there and help the people that you're meant to help. Nobody is being served by you playing small and hiding and trying to get everything perfect. I always tell my clients, like, we'll do a visualization. Okay, connect. Think of the person that's out there waiting for you to help them, the person that's out there that has the problem and needs the solution you provide. And you're sitting here holding back because you're trying to tweak the sales page or something. Like, no, go tell them about it. Go help them. That's what we're here for.
It's so much safer to tweak the sales page or to rebrand. That's been my strategy.
But that's the badass action. And once you start doing it and you do it over and over again, you really start to transform into a new person that that kind of doesn't care anymore what other people think, or worry about what other people are thinking, because you know that what you're doing is doing good in the world and doing good for yourself, your family, and whatever your own dreams are that you're supporting.
Oh yeah. Oh, so juicy. So if someone were to walk away with just that one mic drop, like, you have to take this with you forever, piece of advice, tidbit, quote, what would you want them to walk away with?
I'm thinking of all the quotes on my refrigerator that I have. And the one that is sticking out to me is, I think it might be Eleanor Roosevelt. Don't quote me on that. It's, do the thing you think you cannot do.